Welcome back to Switch2Linux. Well, there wasn't a lot else going on in the Linux world today, so I wanted to use this time to start looking for another distro to finish out the year on my media PC. So for those that are unaware, I run basic main production computers, and I also run a media PC, and the media PC is where I do real hardware, real-world testing. So that computer is kind of a multi-purpose general PC that's always running in the office. And so I've wanted to run something like Fedora on it for a while. So what we're going to do is, I'm not a big fan of GNOME, and I've actually been running GNOME for like the last couple of weeks on Linux Mint Debian Edition. So right now what I want to do is I want to experiment with Fedora a little bit more, but we want to go with Fedora KDE. And as I go with Fedora KDE, one of the reasons I want to do KDE is, first is I found that this is a desktop that I really like for the media PC. But the biggest problem that I've had on Debian-based systems, and it's not, I don't know if it's all Debian-based systems, but anything that's specifically Debian stretch, I've had issues with KDE interfacing with Kodi. So in other words, on Kodi, I can go into Kodi and you can hit your backspace key and it will toggle between a full screen, basically a desktop environment, and a window mode. And also when I shut it down, it also will oftentimes not go back to the main system. I want to see, is that something related specifically to Kodi, KDE plus Debian, because I've never actually observed that on my Linux Mint KDE, which is just based on the regular Ubuntu. Of course, that's Linux Mint 18.3 running KDE. So we're going to run this so that I can get a chance to see, is it the Debian KDE combination, or is it the KDE versus Kodi. And so that's what we're going to get into. And so I just want to do a quick look at what this looks like, just do a brief overview of this. And this is a quick look. I've not observed it yet, so we're just logging in. And this is, of course, Fedora 29 KDE version. Just off the original cuff here, I have a notification coming on. This is telling us that we have some software updates. This is actually a little software update notification. I'm not going to run those on camera here because those will probably interfere. We, of course, have the ability to add our widgets. And let's see, do we have the ability to create new folders and work off the desktop? Yes, we do. We do actually have the ability to work off the desktop. This is good. Not too bad, so that's pretty good. Let's open this up, and it looks like we do have our main task application. I have to start looking at some of these things. And by the way, at the recommendation of Pizza Loving Nerd, I'm going to start having I'm going to put together a point system to evaluate distributions on, so we have a more objective way. And so some of the things I'm going to be looking at, particularly in light of Cinnamon 4.0 going with more of a modern Windows 10 appearance to it, getting rid of, for example, your task lists and things, I'm going to start including little things like that just to, that's more subjective. But me personally, I really like the task windows. And there's a reason for it, and I've talked about it in other videos. I'm not going to go ahead and repeat myself here. But we're going to go ahead and have a look at what this guy's going to look like. Looks like we do have single click to open things up, which generally is a default. Let me, I got to remember how to function. There you go. Got to hold control to select something there. All right, so we are starting with our launcher. Is this the application launcher, I think, which is my favorite menu when I'm running KDE. Of course, if you're unfamiliar with KDE, you can right-click, and there's this alternatives button, as long as widgets are unlocked, by the way. We have an application dashboard, application launcher, and application menu. Your menu is more of a traditional type menu. It does have a search bar in it, but it's much more condensed, simpler menu. And for people that want to have something like more like a Mac type feel, you can go ahead and switch to a dashboard, which is going to give you an effect like this. Also a very nice system. Fun trivia, my KDE Linux Mint system has both running these. I have the main menu is the application launcher, which I like over here, and I actually have a dashboard over on the other side closer to the clock. I like each for their own different things. As far as the applications, We can come over here. Here's our basic administration, firewalls, etc. Development tools. There's some games. Looks like we have a number of games pre-installed. Graphics. Not more application. I wanted to go and look at the... I haven't actually played around with this paint program here. Kind of like your Windows Paint application. Curious to know what they're going to do with our email client. Are they going to give us? They're going to give us Kmail. So I like Kmail. I love the setup of it. It's a little bit more complicated for running multiple emails. So I'll run Evolution and Thunderbird for the different applications that I'm doing. Dragon Player is our default player there. I skipped my Office settings. So we have K-Address Book, which is the one that I use. And we have Calligra Words for our word processing. And system tools and utilities. So as far as our information, let's go ahead and look at our system information for those curious. Of course, Fedora 29, we're looking at the Plasma or KDE version. Plasma, I'll use Plasma. People seem to yell at me when I use KDE these days. We'll do Plasma version 5.13. I don't think that's the absolute latest, but it's pretty new. Qt 5.11. We have a kernel version 4.18. This is the thing that your Debian family has a much lower kernel. Of course, I am running kernel 4.18 on my Linux Mint Debian edition right now, although this one is, that one's 4.18.000 because of the way I had to put it in there. This one is actually going to be a more updated, probably better experienced kernel. So I'm going to expect that this system will work fairly well. The other thing of note is that this one has Wayland on it. And so if I can find Wayland, this one actually has Wayland on it. And so this is going to give us, this will probably be the first time that I'm running Wayland on production in a longer time. So I'll be curious to know, can I do standard screen sharing like I usually like to do? Is anything going to work for me out of the box? You know, just that kind of stuff. Otherwise, this just basically looks like your stock KDE. Of course, we have it with, we have two different wallpapers, although I just absolutely love this one. This is just a gorgeous wallpaper. Mouse, applications, icons. Let's see. So here was where we can show the desktop folder and location. Here's filters, tweaks. Okay, so in Plasma here, if you are wondering now, we have the ability to work off of the desktop. Plasma has the ability to be set up pretty much any way. So if you were actually go to a desktop view and apply this, then what you're going to find now is that this runs now like GNOME 3, where you do not actually have the ability to work off the desktop. A lot of people love it, a lot of people don't. This is one of the reasons I love Plasma. No matter which direction you want to go with, you actually have the ability to do that. So now we can actually work off the desktop, we can arrange our icons, we can, you know, have files, and that's the way I run things. So we'll have that ability as well. We're going to have to do some things, like I'm not a big fan of double-clicking everything, so I'm going to have to go into the settings and toggle those settings out. But the settings panel is in Plasma is very advanced. They are making it a lot nicer. I think it's a lot cleaner in the more recent versions. So here we have a variety of different things we can do here. So of course I like my oxygen views. Although, you know what I might do? I might end up doing a dark. I'll probably try and do a dark material design for a while and see if I warm up to that design. Not something I generally have done in the past, but that's certainly something that I would like to try out. So here's your various colors and things. We're not going to mess with those on this one here. Discard any changes. Your fonts, font management, icons. This is where some people don't like Plasma, is there's so many options and settings. I actually like the wide variety of options and settings. For me, I like the ability to set it up, and to me, Plasma really feels like what Linux is. That gives you a lot of choices, a lot of options. Of course, the downside is there's sometimes too many choices and too many options, but the full reality is I'd rather have choices than have my choices taken away. And so that's why I like this desktop. If I want to set it up like a modern system, I can do that. If I want to set it up like an old XP style that seems so old and boring, well, I actually want the XP type style, because what I have found is that it is very efficient to work with. So here we can actually go on and let's see, no account providers found. So I'd have to install some account providers to get this running. Big deal. There's our connections. Joysticks. There you go. There's printers. There's no printers turned on in my office right now. All right, so there's what we have. Out of the box, looks like this. I'm gonna, when I install it, I'm gonna put a darker theme on, but I'm gonna go with a dark grayscale material design theme as what I think I'm gonna do with it. But then I'm gonna set it up kind of like the way I generally have liked my KDE builds. I might run a Cairo dock. I might just run application launchers. I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna do with it yet. But I think that this will be a good choice to get a chance to experiment with. Of course, what do I not like about Plasma? The first thing I don't like about it is Dolphin. Although a lot of people really think Dolphin is one of the absolute best, and there's some advantages. One of the advantages is it's completely, I mean, there's several of your file managers just have a simple, 4 or 5 different options for your size. You can go, anything from just small little tiny icons all the way up to full scale things. You can do absolutely anything. They have improved it quite a bit. You used to not be able to come over here and simply access your network services. So like I have here some, if they actually access, are you going to get in there or not? We'll get there. Loading. It's not finding anything. All right. This might be something I have to struggle with a little bit. I find this is maybe a little bit more inconsistent. So I actually have network attached storage and other network files I should be able to get. This is one of the things that Dolphin doesn't actually do well, is interface with network resources. Now, some versions it does. I think it kind of depends on the version. I know my version that is on my Linux Mint Debian edition, where I have a Plasma version running over there, that accesses the network just fine. On my Linux Mint KDE, I actually had to build the network manually, so that works, but it was kind of a pain to do. This one here, it's not actually accessing my network shares, so I'll need to figure out why. That's absolutely something that's going to be critical, so I'll spend the time to figure that out, and if it's not working on real hardware out of the box, then I'll kind of walk through how I got that working. But that's kind of one of the things. The other thing about this is that it's slow, it's bulky, and I think a lot of it's because Plasma has a single click, double click option, and so what happens is you're hovering over things, you'll see that there's a little plus up here. So if I want to select this, now right now I just enabled double click, so it's going to work just like anything else. So of course I can come over here, hold my control, whatever. But if I still had single click turned on, singly clicking this is going to open the folder. It is actually very efficient if you're used to it. I'm generally not used to it, so I turn that off. I appreciate that it's an option. But what happens is it doesn't really know to disable this functionality, which is how you select things if you have single click turned on. And so what ends up happening is just moving things around, dragging files around is just way slower in Dolphin. and I just don't like the experience quite as much. As far as getting network files to work, it is a Dolphin thing. It's not the system thing. If I were to install Nautilus or Nemo on here, it would actually work just fine. I hate Nautilus worse than Dolphin, for sure. But if I needed network storage to work and it doesn't work out of the box, I might just do that as a temporary thing until I have time to fix it. So those are some things I don't like about Plasma. Of course, we have all of our basic widgets up here. So I'm not going to be expecting anything different from this. But this is just kind of a brief overview of the Fedora Community Edition of Plasma, and when I get this up on the other computer, I'll kind of talk about my build, maybe what did I add, what did I remove. There's going to be some applications here I'm going to remove. For example, there's a lot under Internet I probably won't need. Under Office, I'll get rid of the Calligra word processor. That's not something I'm going to need. I generally use LibreOffice across the board for everything. We do have Kmail. Again, I like the format of Kmail. It's a pain to set up if you have multiple email addresses. Single email address, it's not a problem, but I check several email addresses, and I actually have an Evolution file on my server that I just install Evolution, drop the file on, and all my emails are set to go. So those are the things I'm going to be working with. I'll have to download some themes, it looks like. They don't have a lot of themes pre-installed on this, but we do get a very nice stock Plasma on top of the Fedora build. And so I'll get a chance to see how Fedora runs on a desktop environment that I like more, and maybe that'll give me a better impression of Fedora. Being said, I've found to this point I've generally been running it on GNOME. So hopefully this will be a fun video to watch. Let me know what your thoughts, comments, questions are in the description down below, and be looking for this build. I'm gonna guess we might probably see this as my pre-recorded video for Sunday, since the rest of this week's gonna be live streams. So I'll try and get this on my system between now and then I'll either do a setup video where I'll kind of set things up, or I'll do hey, this is what it looks like once it's set up. You guys let me know in the comments down below. Would you like to see me set this up the way I like it, or would you like to see me see the build after it's already done? Let me know. But this is, I think, what we're going to be running. So we'll leave behind Linux Mint Debian Edition and jump on over to Fedora Plasma Community Edition, and we'll see you when we get that up. I hope you've enjoyed this video from Switched2Linux. If you'd like to help support the channel, check out the links at the top. There is another video over here. You can check out our Patreon page down here. And you can check out shop.switchedtolinux.com for information on a t-shirt like this or some other designs. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.